So a couple of weeks ago, I made a brand new shift boot for my Miata. Now, when you have a nice custom stitched shift boot in a car, suddenly the e-brake boot that's right next to it tends to look a little bit, well, underwhelming. So, because it was underwhelming, that means I had to make a matching e-brake boot. And so I bring you the video that you will see today. So I'm not doing anything particularly fancy here. This is not as complex as the shift boot because the shift boot has more panels and has to fit onto the trim ring on the bottom, right? This really only has to slide over the e-brake. So as long as I take apart my existing boot, I can basically just trace it right on the material here as best I can, and that should be more than enough. Forcing myself to use my right hand here because that's the most convenient. You may find yourself, in your case, forcing yourself to use your right hand or whatever you gotta do, because this stuff is gonna want to shift all over the place and be a pain in your butt. If you wanted to leave this like between a couple of books or something for a few days, that would probably get you the perfect result, where this lays nice and flat and it's easier to trace, but this would do the trick too. Close enough. I'll probably actually do that anyway, and then later assess that, right? But for now, that's the shape that I need. And let's say they fold over maybe a 1/4 inch off of that. Yeah, about a 1/4. Same thing with these seams. They weren't very consistent with how they did it, but that seems to be about it. 1/4, and then maybe like 1/8 of the way off of that they stitched. But all the seams, usually a 1/4 inch is a good general measurement to go with, so kind of want to just straighten this line out because that contour is probably just from the material being folded over time. We'll do this, we'll trace out the other one, and then we're going to cut this into leather. Alright, so I've got this cut out of leather using my template that I made. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mark one of these with the 1/4 inch seams that I need. All right. This is going to be my sewing guide. All right, for when I run this through my sewing machine, I get more or less a 1/4 inch seam all the way throughout. The same thing at the top, right, and then all along this curved area. You don't need to do it to both because you're only sewing from one side, so don't work extra for no reason. Being a parent to a toddler is always fun. Okay, so really quickly, this one is just a perfectly straight line. These I basically will freehand. Alright. Alright, so that's perfect. Now I can basically lay one over another, and that gives me my sewing guide. There is one that I do need to do to the other one, and that's the 1/4 inch there for the fold back, because obviously you got to do it to both sides. So cool. All right, so now just using my mask, windows open and fan, I'm gonna go ahead and contact cement these back so that then they're easier to sew. I don't want to staple here because obviously it'll damage this surface. I can staple later because those are excess seams. Alright, so let's put on my mask. Alright, then go ahead, apply contact cement. Do it to both of them. Gonna stick this under the fan for a little bit so that it tacks up, and then I'll fold them back. I really quickly shot some yellow stitching here. It didn't go so well, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and staple this together. Anytime you glue leather folded back on itself, the machine sometimes, you know, will give you some problems, but it is what it is. Let's go lining up these edges and stapling them. All right. These need to be tapped down specifically because when you go through the sewing machine, they will snag. Otherwise, make sure you squeeze them real nice with something heavy. Sometimes just squeezing them down with your fingers doesn't get them down enough. And then you pay for it when you're trying to sew. Alright, on one side, if I remember correctly, yeah, I gotta seam this, right? I gotta sew it together, flip it over, then I flip this, will it curl the way I want it to? Yeah, well, okay. Probably overthinking it, but alright. So I'm going to sew all the way around here. Color doesn't really matter. I just got to sew it together. Then I can fold these back on themselves and flip it over, sew the other side to do the nice stitching. Flip it back over again, sew this, then turn the whole thing inside out, and it should be good to go. Here. This up, bring it around that, come here, around here, and through our needle. Let's make sure the stupid thing is nice and clean on you. Alright, we're through the needle. There's a little thing there that will help you thread the needle. If you need it, you don't have like the vision for that. Pretty normal. As folks get older, you know, grandma gets into sewing. Okay, let's back up and stitch right back on top of that point. The reason we do that is to lock the stitches in. Right. I'm doing this all manually first at this point. Should be able to just take my time. Bring it through. Thing here to end the stitching. We'll come back, drop at a point before, drop at a point ahead, and we'll pull it out. All right. I'd say that came out pretty nice. Yeah, it's followed my line pretty decent. So let's remove these staples. Toss them out. Needle nose plier would probably be a little better at this activity, but alright. Now I gotta fold this back on itself, then flip, right, and stitch on this side. This is gonna be interesting. First time I'm doing this. Should be fun. Alright, that's gonna be my boot. Alright, here goes nothing. I'm gonna shoot some green stitching on this. This is obviously contoured, so it's gonna suck, but I'm going to be basically shifting it around to try to get what I want. Let's see if we get away with this. Alright, and let's shoot stitch number 1 in right here. Actually, you know what? I should try a different foot on this thing so that I have an easier time guiding it. So I got this thing in here, stitched it, seems to be going, so okay, let's backstitch this to lock it in. That ain't so bad if I say so myself. I'm actually pretty happy with that. Now let's shoot the red on the other side. And once I shoot that red, it should be done. Alright, let's get started on the red. Per usual. We will hand stitch it first. Just shift this ever so slightly. Second hole in here and pull back and hit it where you started, right up to more or less the second hole. And this is engaged. I see it tugging now, so let's start our stitching. Okay, we kind of fold this a little bit. Okay, just drop our finishing stitch. right. Alright, very nice. Got my red in there. So now I can flip this over and sew the other side. Alright, so let's go ahead and flip this thing over. Alright, got it flipped. We can go ahead and staple this inner side and then we'll stitch it. And this thing is ready to roll, save for making a little cutout for one side where the mechanism gets in the way. Alright, that's stapled. Now I'll run this through my machine after I smash these staples in. And that's going to be the end of that. We'll flip it over, we'll cut off this little bit, and this is ready to go on the Miata. Alright, so I'm going to leave the red string in there because this doesn't really matter what color you stitch. I will change this foot though, because I don't want that guide in place. We'll go back to the foot we were using earlier. Alright, we want to take our string and tug it. And drop this little guy. Boom. Alright. As always, we start with a manual stitch. Shoot that through. Do a little bit. Shoot it through. Come right back. Right. Shoot through our initial point. We're going. Alright. Shoot one more manual. And I want to say from here it should start tugging. There we go. Alright. So for now I can basically just let the machine do its thing. Step on this pedal. Alright. So, cut off these little excess strings. I've already shot the double stitches in here. Clean off little strings. Now, the only thing to do is remove the staples and flip this guy over. The one that I patterned this off of did not have this folded back inward on itself, and I don't see why this one has to either. So it's mainly a matter of flipping it back. Alright, so I'll take these staples out. All right, so that's the finished thing. It's gonna kind of suck to flip over, but we're gonna flip it over. But actually, I do need to make that cutout. So that has the cutout now. Let's flip her over. And there we go. All right, let's go test fit this on the Miata. There is an advantage to gluing the seams inside, is that it keeps the shape a little bit better when you do it. So otherwise now you gotta kind of fight it a little. You can kind of squeeze it down how it's supposed to go. So if I fit it and I don't like it, I may change this by flipping it back in and yeah, working that seam. Alright, let's go test fit that. I think, yeah, with the cutout, I have to be a little bit more aggressive, which means I have to actually trim out these little bits, even though I don't want to. Well, it's more in the front, really. Right. Let's pop it. See if I can pop it over this thing. And next, I'm gonna make a different version of this that's gonna have a cutout for leather, and I'll make the leather match with this stuff. But that is great. I'm really happy with the fit and the finish on that. That looks fantastic. That is a pretty satisfactory result. I like the fitment, I like the look of it. Obviously my car's a little dirty on the inside. That's because I've been doing some carpentry in the garage. I had the top down with the car in the garage, so the car got a lot of sawdust on it, but I'm gonna give it a nice clean, and then all this stuff is gonna really pop with it. I'm really glad to have the matching stitching. I think it's really looking good. So I'm excited to get this thing done. Gonna get that e-brake handle looking real nice and matching this. And this is pretty much gonna be that, at least for the little details. Then I'm going to do the door crash pads and the dash crash pad, and I'm gonna stitch all that to match. So stay tuned for that. If you guys have enjoyed this thus far, feel free to hit that like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I post up another video. If you have any feedback or questions, feel free to leave that in the comment section. And as always, thank you guys for watching.